Welcome to the Prairie Moon Sculpture Garden and Museum. Herman Rusch worked as a hired hand and farmer for 40 years until his retirement in 1952. By then, he had amassed a large collection of natural curiosities, photographs, taxidermy pieces, and antique tools. Rusch purchased the Prairie Moon Dance Pavilion near Cochrane, Wisconsin, and filled it with his collections and personal mementos. Rusch opened the building as the Prairie Moon Museum and kept his collection on view there for the next 25 years. Once his collections were installed in the former dance hall, Rusch decided to add some interest to the grounds surrounding it by adding outdoor flower beds and large sculptures. With stone from nearby quarries and other samples brought from afar by visitors, Rusch taught himself how to affix them to one another with mortar and concrete and construct stable monuments. He made many large containers, which he then planted with flowers grown from his family's own heirloom seeds. Recently, the Prairie Moon site became home to a body of work displaced from another Cochrane yard environment. Now, 25 garden sculptures by Fred Schlosstein have been installed on the northern edge of Prairie Moon Sculpture Garden, adjacent to the parking lot. The garden of Fred Schlosstein combines sculpture and native flowers in a lively way. Schlosstein created a series of indigenous stone buildings based on structures around the Cochrane area. These sculptures, donated by the artist family, are on view inside the Prairie Moon Museum and can be seen during visiting hours. Schlosstein's original garden also included birds, animals, windmills, mushrooms, and planters in wood, concrete, and stone that surrounded a boy fishing by a pond. Many of these elements can be seen in the circular garden established in 2008. The arch was a major component of the original Schlosstein garden. Conservators replicated two original elements that had been lost, the baseball cap worn by the boy and a Wisconsin state flag on the flagpole. The project to conserve and install the Schlosstein sculptures was carried out by Preservation Services on behalf of the Kohler Foundation and the Friends of Prairie Moon Museum and Sculpture Garden. Herman Rusch's first outdoor sculpture was a giant planter made from stone and scrap metal. It was the first of 40 that would eventually dot his property. Another early work, and perhaps Rusch's most spectacular, is a distinctive 260-foot arched fence that spans the north perimeter of the site. Its curves, made of colored concrete formed over wagon wheel rims and inlaid with crockery and shells, echo those of the hilly bluffs along the Mississippi River. Between the arches, flame-shaped cones embedded with colored glass shards emerge from turret-like posts made of red brick and white stone. This striking combination of elements is repeated in the playfully tiered arch structure near the center of the garden. Rusch once had a poetic plaque near this piece that read, "Where the sun-kissed dewdrops on the morning flower, one of God's greatest gifts and man's much-cherished bower." Within Rusch's sculptures there are vast variations of scale, ranging from the diminutive Hindu temple to the full-scale watchtower and the giant vessel. His 20-foot-tall rocket to the stars and its companion sun spire, like the tiered arch structure, are crowned by stars covered in mirrored glass to catch the light. As historian and preservationist Lisa Stone has observed, Rusch's decorated stonework shows some influence from A Little Bit o' Heaven, an art environment that once existed in Davenport, Iowa. More than once, Rusch visited this tourist attraction built in the 1920s by chiropractor B.J. Palmer. Rusch also visited the Dickeyville Grotto near the Iowa border and Fred Smith's Concrete Park in Phillips, Wisconsin. Rusch and Smith knew each other, and apart from their ambitious building projects, shared skills as avid fiddle players. Interspersed with the imaginative architectural pieces by Herman Rusch are some figurative sculptures of painted concrete. For example, Norwegian Hunter fighting the bear, and Polar Bear with Ribbon Seal. These were made by Halvor Landsverk, an artist and friend of Rusch's from Minnesota. Another collection of garden sculpture has recently been added to the Prairie Moon site, that of John and Bertha Meringer of nearby Fountain City. Like Fred Schlosstein, the Meringers may have been influenced by the glasswork constructions of the nearby Wegner Grotto when they built their own Fountain City rock garden. Between 1933 and 1935, the couple made tiny columns, a windmill, wishing well, birdhouse, fountain, and other structures in concrete encrusted with stone and colored glass. With the help of the Kohler Foundation, James Crum, Jody Kronbusch, and William Kamueller, the windmills are once again turning, and the other structures have been renovated and repaired. The Fountain City rock garden sculptures were given to the Friends of Prairie Moon by Gwen and Bill Catula. In his self-portrait bust, Rusch portrayed himself in suit and tie and in a somewhat dignified pose behind a stone podium. He originally accompanied this work with a short biographical sign that read, "Born in a log cabin in 1885 near Arcadia, Wisconsin. An outdoor man all his life. A lover and student of nature. Farms 40 years, then sells farm to his son. Always helping him in busy times, and at the same time started this venture when 71 years old, and did all the work himself, in building and on the grounds. A good way to kill old age boredom." At age 94, Rusch decided to retire. He sold Prairie Moon at auction, nearly dispersing the entire contents of his pavilion museum. The new owners turned the property into a dog kennel, which it would remain for the next 13 years. In 1992, the Kohler Foundation was able to acquire the site and begin the restoration of the deteriorating site as part of its ongoing commitment to the preservation of significant art environments by self-taught artists. The pavilion was also restored with the addition of an interpretive exhibition that includes documentary photographs, museum artifacts, personal keepsakes, and, as mentioned before, the added collections of Fred Schlosstein and the Meringers. Inside the pavilion are Schlostein's Depression-era miniature buildings. His little village was kept in the family until it was donated by the artist's grandson, Judge Gary Schlosstein, and his wife Shelby, and restored by William and Marjorie Kamueller with the assistance of the Kohler Foundation. Significant conservation of sculptures has been an ongoing project at Prairie Moon, and landscaping has revived the garden environment. Now cared for by an organization called the Friends of Prairie Moon and owned by the town of Milton, the Prairie Moon Sculpture Garden and Museum is maintained as a public art site of national significance. Herman Rusch believed that beauty creates the will to live. Beyond the parking lot is the Prairie Garden, established with the help of Doug Wood, a native seed specialist, and Joe Grishik. Plants will be identified with markers and walkways are available for your pleasure as you wander Wisconsin.